If you're new here, take a quiet second before we begin. Go ahead, pause, breathe in slowly, and exhale. And if you're someone who believes stories can change you, not loudly, not dramatically, but gently, then subscribe to this channel and press the like button. Your support allows us to continue sharing emotional journeys that stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Because some stories don't just entertain you, they rearrange you. This is one of those stories. It was the kind of morning that looked too beautiful to hold heartbreak. The sky above Alaska stretched endlessly, painted in a shade of blue that almost felt artificial, like someone had carefully mixed the color just to impress the world. The air was crisp but warm, light yet sharp against my skin. It felt freshly washed, untouched by dust or memory. Nothing like home. Back in Amman, the sun pressed itself against your back like a reminder. You belong here. The heat wrapped around you and stayed. The streets were tight, the conversations tighter. Everyone knew everyone. Privacy was a luxury that didn't exist. Here in Alaska, everything felt wide. The sky, the roads, the silence. And as I stepped out of the taxi with my single suitcase, I remember thinking something strange. This land doesn't know me. It doesn't know my history. It doesn't know the weight I carry. It doesn't know the expectations that followed me across oceans. And for the first time in my life, that felt freeing. I was 33 years old, unmarried, educated, independent. And in my community, that combination didn't earn applause. It earned questions. Polite questions. Sharp questions. Sympathetic smiles that weren't really sympathetic. A woman my age was supposed to be someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's responsibility, not boarding an international flight alone to work as a nanny for strangers. But life has a quiet way of pushing you toward doors you never imagined opening. The Martin family needed help. And I needed money. At least, that's what I told everyone. But if I'm honest, money wasn't the real reason. I wanted proof. Proof that I could stand on my own feet without shrinking to fit into a mold carved for me. Proof that I could survive outside the script written by others. Proof that independence didn't make me selfish. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted escape. The Martin house was not just large. It was expansive. Marble floors reflected sunlight pouring in through towering windows. The ceilings seemed impossibly high, as if even the air inside had room to breathe. The house didn't feel like shelter. It felt like a statement. The first person to greet me was Emily Martin. Elegant, composed, intentional. Her blonde hair was secured in a flawless bun, not a single strand rebelling. Her blouse looked like it belonged in a fashion editorial. Yet her smile was real, warm, not rehearsed. "You must be Aaliyah," she said. The way she pronounced my name, carefully, correctly, made something inside me soften. It wasn't foreign on her tongue. It wasn't shortened or simplified. It was mine. Behind her stood Ethan. Tall, broad-shouldered, sandy brown hair that curled slightly at the ends, as though he'd given up trying to tame it. His face carried faint laugh lines, evidence of someone who smiled often. He didn't speak immediately. He observed. Then he stepped forward and handed me a cup of tea. It was such a small gesture. But in that moment, it steadied me. Before I could absorb anything else, two tiny hurricanes burst into the room. Anna and Liam, 5 and 3, curious, loud, sticky-fingered, and completely uninterested in personal space. They circled me as though I were a new toy. "Why do you talk like that? Where are you from? Can you run fast? Do you like dinosaurs?" I had never officially worked as a nanny before, but I was the eldest of 6 siblings. That experience had trained me better than any certificate ever could. Emily seemed to sense that. She handed me a thick binder, schedules, meal plans, emergency contacts, even laundry folding diagrams. She wasn't controlling. She was thorough. Detail was her language of love. The first few weeks blurred together. 6 a.m. wake-ups, breakfast chaos, school drop-offs, dramatic storytime voices, finger paint in places that defied physics. Liam ran through the backyard as if gravity were optional. Anna asked questions about everything, especially my accent. At night, I retreated to my small basement room, exhausted, but fulfilled. For the first time in my life, I felt useful in a way that belonged only to me. Not because I was someone's daughter. Not because I was someone's sister. But because I was Aaliyah. And I was capable. About a month in, something shifted. Not dramatically. No violins played. No Sanderkracht. It was a juice box. Liam squeezed it too hard. Orange liquid exploded across the kitchen floor. I knelt down laughing softly as he apologized in broken toddler language. And that's when I felt it. The sensation of being watched. I looked up. Ethan was leaning against the counter, arms crossed. Smiling. Not amused at the mess. At me. You're amazing with them, he said. Simple words. But the way he said them felt deliberate. Like he wasn't complimenting an employee. He was acknowledging a person. Thank you, sir. I replied automatically. He laughed gently. Please. Call me Ethan. After that, I noticed him more. How he asked if I'd eaten. How he carried groceries before I could reach them. How he lingered in the kitchen when I cooked. As though conversation with me had quietly become part of his day. Emily began traveling more. Conferences. Meetings. Flights that blurred together. The house grew quieter in her absence. One evening, as the children played on the living room floor, Ethan stood beside me at the counter. Don't you ever get tired? He asked. Of what? Doing everything for everyone. I shrugged. It's what I'm used to. He studied me. You shouldn't have to be. No one had ever said that to me before. In my world, women gave. They sacrificed. They held everything together quietly. And that was normal. Expected. Invisible. But in his eyes, my effort wasn't invisible. And that scared me. Because I knew the lines. I knew my faith. I knew my values. I knew the boundaries that should never be crossed. But loneliness has a soft voice. And appreciation can sound dangerously like comfort. Summer in Alaska stretched long and golden. But one evening, rain arrived. Soft at first. Then steady. The children fell asleep early, tired from running through wet grass. The house grew quiet except for rain tapping rhythmically against the windows. I stood at the sink washing dishes. Ethan joined me, sleeves rolled up. We talked. Not about the children. Not about schedules. About life. About the dreams we once had. About sacrifices we never spoke aloud. I see how much you give, he said softly. His eyes held mine a second too long. And in that silence, something unnamed passed between us. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just understood. After that night, everything felt different. Glances lingered. Jokes carried warmth underneath them. Even silence felt charged. And with each passing day, guilt grew like a shadow behind every smile. When Emily returned, reality returned with her. She filled the house with composed energy, and I tried to lock my feelings away. But feelings don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. One night, I sat outside under an Alaskan sky scattered with stars so bright they looked unreal. Ethan joined me. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I whispered, "We can't keep doing this." He exhaled slowly. "I love you," he said. His voice cracked. The words didn't feel like victory. They felt like collapse. Because love in this situation wasn't romantic. It was destructive. It meant damage. To a family, to my faith, to myself. And in that moment, I understood something painful. Love is not always meant to be chosen. The next week, I began searching for another job. Quietly. Without drama. Without confrontation. Leaving Anna and Liam felt like tearing something from my chest. Emily hugged me sincerely when I told her I'd found another opportunity. Ethan said nothing. But his eyes spoke in a language too heavy to translate. And just like that, I left Alaska. Back in Amman, the air felt warmer. Familiar. The call to prayer echoed between buildings at sunset. Family dinners lasted hours. Neighbors still knew everything. But I was different. The summer had changed something inside me. Instead of shrinking under shame, I decided to build something. I started a small community center for women. A place for skill training. For support. For independence. A space where women could create futures that belonged to them. Piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. Not as someone's possibility. Not as someone's temptation. but as my own person. One afternoon, as I organized paperwork, I heard my name. I turned. Emily stood in the doorway. She looked older, softer, more human. We sat down together. We talked about the children, about life. Then she said quietly, I knew. Even then. My heart stopped. She lifted her hand gently. I'm not here to blame you, she said. Life is messy. I just needed to see you to understand. Tears blurred my vision. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I know, she replied. I've forgiven you. And him. Forgiveness felt heavier than anger. It required courage I wasn't sure I deserved. Before leaving, she looked around the center and smiled. You're doing good work, she said. Don't let the past define you. After she left, I stood there for a long time. That summer had once felt like a wound. Now it felt like a scar. Still there, but healed. I hadn't just walked away from a house in Alaska. I had walked back to myself. And sometimes, that is the hardest journey of all. If this story touched something inside you, even quietly, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Because growth doesn't always come from perfection. Sometimes it comes from the mistakes we survive. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away.